What's going on, guys? My name is Zach, and today we're doing another deck profile on this channel. So I'm really excited to show this, guys, because this is actually my Kashtira deck profile. Yes, I have finally built this deck, and I will say, when you begin to understand how the effects are working, this is actually a very fun deck to play. So without further ado, guys, let's get straight on into this. So to begin off, we're using 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. Unicorn is our starter for this deck, and it is actually a 1 card combo. If you start out with this card, you can just start out your combo. Because it has the effect that when you control no monsters, you can actually special summon this monster from your hand, and during your main phase, you can search out any of your Kashtira spells that you want. It also has the effect that when your opponent activates a monster effect or this card declares an attack. Sorry guys, that was just something on my phone that I needed to read. That was why I took the break. But then you can actually banish one monster from the extra face down, which is a great effect, guys. So that is basically just our combo starter that we have here. Next, we're using 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. Fenrir is a great 3-up as well, because he is basically also kind of the same monster. Because he has the effect that if you control no monsters, you can special summon this monster from your hand. And also, during your main phase, you can search out any Kashtira monster that you want. So if you don't start out with Unicorn, but you have something that you can actually summon Unicorn with like, for example, our Kashtira Birth, then you can actually just search after your Unicorn and then start your combo again. Which is a great effect, guys, and that's what I really love about this deck. That you can top deck literally anything and then you can actually start your combo. He also has the effect that if your opponent activates a monster effect or this card declares an attack, you can banish one face-up card your opponent controls face down, which is a great effect, guys, because that actually helps our resources and combos to pop off. Next up, we're using 2 copies of Kashtira Riseheart. Riseheart is a great 2-up, guys, because he has the effect that you can special summon this monster from your hand if you control a Kashtira monster. He also has the effect that you can banish one Kashtira card from your deck, and then banish top 3 cards from your opponent's deck face down, and then this monster will become level 7, which is a great effect, guys. The reason why I play 2 is because I really think this card is a brick. If you just start out with him, and if you draw 2 of him, then you can actually do your 1-card combo starter. And that is basically the only reason you can. You can play this as a 3-up, it's totally up to you, but I think it's just best for me if I only play 2 of him. Next, we're using 2 copies of Scareclaw Kashtira. Scareclaw Kashtira is a great 2-up, guys, because he has the effect that during your main phase, you can banish one other Kashtira monster from your hand or graveyard to special summon this monster. And when this monster is in defense position, guys, it can actually attack from defense position. And then it will gain its defense points as its attack points. Which means that this is basically just a super heavy samurai. Which is a great effect, guys, because that means that we can just attack from defense and still keep our life points safe. Next, we're using 1 copy of T-Elements Kashtira. T-Elements Kashtira is a great 1-up, guys, because she has basically the same effect to banish a Kashtira card from your hand or graveyard to special summon her. And when she's normal or special summoned, you can actually mill top 3 cards from either player's deck, which is a great effect, guys, because that means that you can actually just mill more cards from your opponent's deck and then maybe activate your Arise, and then continue to give your Riseheart materials to activate his effect. And when she is sent to the graveyard, you can mill up 2 cards from your own deck, which is a great effect, guys. I would say you don't have to use this monster, but I think it's a very good resource in this deck, actually. But you can just swap it out for another copy of maybe Riseheart or Kashtira Ogre, because I don't play that in this deck. I really should, but I don't. Next, we're using 3 copies of Dimensional Shifter. Dimension Shifter is a great free up, guys, because he has the effect that if you control no card or if you have no cards in your graveyard, you can send them out, and now for the rest of the turn until the next end phase, all cards that hits the graveyard will be banished, which is a great effect, guys. And the reason why I use this card is because I think it works really well in this deck. You can also side it because it's not all the time that you need his effect. Next, we're using 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. You need to use Ash Blossom in all decks right now, how the format is, because she is just the best hand trap that you can use right now. Because she has the effect that if your opponent wants to add, send, or special summon from their deck, then you can just Ash Blossom it and negate that effect, which is a great effect overall. Next, we're using 2 copies of Lava Golem. Lava Golem is a great 2-up, guys, because he has the effect that you can tribute 2 monsters your opponent controls to special summon this monster to their side of the field, and for the rest of this turn, you cannot normal summon, but it's totally fine because we are actually special summoning the most of our monsters, which doesn't hurt at all. For the last monsters, guys, we're using 1 copy of Nibiru and the Primal Being. The reason why I use Nibiru as a 1-up in this build is because I'm using Crossout Designator. Nibiru in this format, it's just seeing that a lot of plays, especially at my locals. Everybody main Nibiru now. So for me to continuing with maybe summoning 5 or more monsters, then I can actually just continue with that if I banish Nibiru from my deck. But also, Nibiru has the effect that when your opponent summons 5 or more times, you can special summon this monster to your side of the field and tribute all monsters on the field, and then give your opponent a token, which will have the attack and defense points of the tributed monsters. But that was everything for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, guys, we're using 3 copies of Pressured Planet Rat Soul. Pressured Planet is a great 3-up, guys, because this is actually your searcher to search out your copy of Unicorn. Because it has the effect that when you activate this card, you can search out any Kashtira monster that you want from your deck. And also it has the effect that when Kashtira Shankara uses this effect this turn, you can actually destroy 1 card on the field, which is a great effect, guys. Next, we're using 3 copies of maybe one of the best spells as well in this deck, which is 3 copies of Kashtira Theosis. Theosis is great 3-up, guys, because it has the effect that when you activate this card, you can choose one of your Kashtira monsters and special summon a monster or a Kashtira monster from your deck with a completely different attribute. So let's say that you control Fenrir, you can summon out your copy of Unicorn. And also when this card is banished, you can tag one of your Kashtira cards that are banished and add to your hand, which is a great effect because then we can continue to reuse our resources in this deck. Next, we're using 3 copies of Kashtira Birth. Birth is a great 3-up as well because it has the effect that this actually gives you an additional normal summon during your main phase. And it also has the effect that you can choose 1 Kashtira monster that are a non-Xyz Kashtira monster that are banished and special summon to your side of the field, which is a great effect, guys. And it also has the effect that when your opponent activates that spell card or effect, then you can actually banish 3 cards from their graveyard face down, which is also a very good effect in this deck, because that means that we can later on use our copy of number 89 to banish more cards. And I will say, guys, just with this card effect and with number 89, I actually deck outed one of my opponents, which was very fun in the end. Next, we're using 3 copies of Book of Eclipse. Eclipse is just a great 3-up because it has the effect that you actually just say no to all phase of monsters turn that you activated. Because it has the effect that you can actually just flip all monsters on the field face down, and during the end phase of this turn, you flip all your opponent's monsters face up, and for each they will draw a card. But it's totally fine because next turn we can just flip up all of our big attack boss monsters and then attack their monsters, which is much weaker in defense. Next, I'm using 2 copies of Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm has actually shown to be a very good main card in this deck, because the same guy that I deck out of, both duels, I actually top deck this card, and it is just a great card in general, guys, because it has the effect that if you control no face-up cards, you can activate one of these effects to either destroy all face-up attack position monsters your opponent controls, or all their spell or traps. In most cases, I choose spell traps because back row removal is very important in this format right now. We then play 2 copies of Crossout Detonator. I will say, if you have it, play this card as a free up because it's so important in this deck. Because you can also use this card to banish out your Kashtira monsters. Because it has the effect that you declare one card name, let us say that your opponent plays Nibiru, then we activate this card to Nibiru's effect to send the copy of Nibiru from our deck to the banish pile and then negate the effect of Nibiru, because after this card resolves, neither player can activate effects of the card that I declared. It also has, you can also use it to just banish your Kashtira cards. Of course, you can't use the effects of those cards, but it doesn't matter, because with the Kashtira Birth, we can just return them to our field and use them as resources again. And for the last spell, guys, we're using 2 Pot of Prosperities. Pot of Prosperity is a great duo, guys, because it has the effect that you can banish 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck face down, and you actually get to choose this. It's not like the Pot of Extravagance that I used in my Labyrinth deck, where you don't get to choose. Here you actually get to choose the cards. And for the rest of this turn, after the card resolves, you first of all you excavate top 6 cards or top 3 or 6 cards, all after what you choose. If you choose to banish 6 cards, then you choose top 6 cards. And for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent, all damage that your opponent takes is halved. But it's totally fine because this card actually helps us to dig into the deck, which is a great effect, guys. And that can really come in handy in some situations. But that was everything for the spells. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, guys, we're using 1 copy of Kashtira Big Bang. Big Bang is a great one-off because it has the effect that you actually just can reuse your resources with this card. And it also has the effect that when this card is banished, you can choose, or it's actually the same thing. Because the most effect that we use with this, we can just continue to use our resources, because it has the effect that when this card is banished, you can choose 1 Kashtira Xyz monster that you control, choose 1 of their materials, bounce that back to your hand, and then you can either keep it in your hand or special summon it. That is actually a very good effect, guys, because then we can just keep reusing our resources. And for the last traps, we're using 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. This is just a great hand trap, because it has the effect that you can negate the effects of 1 face-up card on the field that your opponent controls. Or a face-up monster, not card. Sorry. And if you're wondering why I take breaks, I have to drink water, because my throat is going to be so dry sometimes when I make these videos. I'm sorry for that, guys, but I just have to. But that was everything for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're actually using 2 copies of Kashtira, a Rise Heart. A Rise Heart is our main boss monster for this deck, because he has the effect that he actually just works as a Macrocosmos. Because every time a card, or when he is on the field, all cards that are sent to the graveyard are banished instead. And he also has the effect that every time a card is banished, once per chain, you can just attach a material from, or a card that are banished to him as material. which is just a great effect, guys, because that means that just can keep filling him up with materials. And he also has the effect that you can banish, or you can use 3 of his materials to banish 1 card on the field face down, which is a great effect as well. Next, we're using 2 copies of Kashtira's Shankara. Shankara is a great job as well, guys, because I'm basically using 2 of each in case I go into a mirror match. Because Shankara has the effect that once per turn during the standby phase, you can special summon 1 Kashtira monster from your deck. But every time a card in your opponent's position is banished face down, you can lock one of their main monster zones or their spell trap card zones, which is great effect, guys, because then we can just lock our opponent out from their place. And when this card should be destroyed, you can just use 1 material instead to protect it. We're then using 1 copy of number 89, the Abolish the Mind Hacker. This is just a great one-off, guys, because it has the effect that you can use 1 material from this card, and then you can banish 1 card of your own choice from your opponent's extra deck face down. And then when one card is banished in your opponent's position face down, you can banish cards from their main deck up to the same number of cards that they're already banished. So let's say that they have 10 cards banished face down. That means that you remove 10 cards automatically from their deck, which is a great effect, guys. And this actually just happens to be the card that actually deck outed one of my opponents to last locals. It was a little bit funny, because my opponent didn't actually think about how much he was banishing face down in the end. The next card is 2 copies of Divine Arsenal Zeus. Zeus is a very great 2-up, guys, because he has the effect that after one of your Xyz monsters has battled, you can actually just use that monster as a material to this monster, and all materials will be transferred into him. There was one time actually where my Riseheart had, I believe it was 6 materials, then I just Zeused him, and then I had a Zeus with 6 materials in defense, which was a great choice because that actually ended up winning me that duel. So that was just a great play, because he has the effect that you can detach 2 materials from this monster to send all other cards on the fields to the graveyard. So this is just a board wiper, and that is just a great effect in general, guys. Next, we're using 1 Red Eyes Flare Metal Drain. This is just a great one-up, guys, because this monster basically just burns your opponent every time that they want to use any card effects. Because every time your opponent activates a card or effect, they will be burned for 500 points of damage. And this card is basically just a big beat stick as well. For the last Xyz monster, we're using 1 number 11 Big Eye. Big Eye is just a great one-off, guys, and a very good extender because it has the effect that you can detach 1 material from this monster to take control over one of your opponent's monsters that they control. So that is just a great one-off, guys, in this deck. We're then using 1 copy of Elder Entity Intis. Intis is great one-off as well because she has the effect that when she is sent to the graveyard, you can destroy 1 monster your opponent controls. This is basically just to get rid of their cards, and you might be wondering, how do you get this to your graveyard? Well, that is a good question, and I have a perfect answer. After I've banished this with Pot of Persplashes, I will use a Riseheart's effect to dig into the pile and then search her out. Because then eventually I will hit her, and then we can just use her to pop another monster, which is a great effect. Next, we're using 1 copy of our all-beloved Omninegate, which is Baron de Fleur. De Fleur is a very good one-up, guys, because he is just a walking negate. Because he has the effect that once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can negate that effect, the activation of that card, and destroy that card. And once per turn, you can also destroy one card that your opponent controls. I believe it's a card, I'm not sure. Either a card or a monster, but either way. Next, we're using one Donner Dagger for hire. This is just an extender in case that we get paired against Kashtira, because you can just pop a Rise Heart with this monster, because he has the fact that you can tribute one for hire to pop one card. One monster that your opponent controls. Next, we're using one copy of Dark the Dark Charmer, Gloomy. This is just in case that we get Iplead. And to you out there that doesn't know Iplead, it's basically a monster that your opponent can summon to our side of the field to just say, okay, now for all the time that you control Iplead, you cannot summon monsters from the extra deck except for linked monsters. So that's basically just why we have Dark in our extra deck. This is just an extender. It doesn't do much to the deck. But one of the next Link monsters, which is Soldier of Chaos, it can do a lot because you can actually protect him by just using one of your level 7s. I will say, guys, normally I don't use Link monsters normally. And for the last card, we're using one Ceroboris. This is just a big beat stick if you can get enough cards banished, because here's the fact that he gains 200 attack for each banished card. And you can also, when a monster is summoned to this monster's link zone or zone that he points to, you can banish all cards in the field, and during your next standby phase, you can summon him back to your field, which is a great effect because that means that you have more cards banished and will make him stronger. I haven't been testing this out. Normally I just use 2 of the Mind Hacker, but I actually want to try this out. But that was everything for the X-Deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is actually a very fun deck to play, but I would say it's also very expensive. I believe I don't know how much I've spent on it. I haven't been spending $500, I know that. But I know people that want to sell them to $500 or above dollars. I think I have maybe just used, I don't know, $300, $250, $280, around that number on this deck, which is not that much actually. But I hope you enjoyed. I am very excited to continue to play with this deck, but I will say Black Wings will always be my favorite. But that was everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see each other next time. Peace out.